gets back home tonight. And the clock just starts right over, and the walls come closing in, and the bathroom dips and then twirls, and your eyes get sunken in so deeply you can't recognize the face you see so easily. No one gets back home tonight.
Are we live? I think we're live.
Yeah, we're live. The cameras were rolling the entire time. It looks like chat is rolling. Welcome in, everybody, to our third live stream. Third. Yes.
Live stream.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm Samera. We have River here once again joining us for the
Hi, it's me.
amazing live stream podcast. Here we go. And we are interviewing today Sherry CD-ROM. Welcome in, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Well, do you want to introduce yourselves, each other, both at the same time, speaking in unison?
Yeah, both at
one?
the same time in unison sounds great.
Okay, ready?
Let's do it.
One,
Okay.
two.
No pressure.
Three. It's me.
Hey.
Hi, it's me, Sherry from Sherry CD-ROM. That's my catchphrase. I say it in every video. I'm a musician from Pittsburgh, and me and my wife make music together. She is here in the chat with us, Claire. She's lovely. We are the hottest T4T couple in Pittsburgh, in our own personal opinion.
Controversial statement.
It is controversial, but I truly believe that. And
Accurate.
we also started a nonprofit a couple of years ago called Helpin Aht Instrument Rescue, and we give free musical instruments to people in the Pittsburgh area who can't afford them.
Oh, that's super
That
cool.
is so cool.
Yeah, it's just like, it's really cool because we'll get donations from people that are just like, oh, hey, I've had this instrument collecting dust for forever, or it broke and I just haven't gotten around to fixing it, and we'll fix it up or take it in, clean it up, and give it right back out to someone who will play it. So,
Yeah.
it's been really nice.
I love that so much. Now I want to do something similar here. Like I can fix instruments. I never thought about doing that. That's fantastic.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So for a couple of years now, you said?
For a couple of years now, yeah.
Yeah.
We've done a couple of
Yeah.
small little events, and we had a booth at a little arts festival and stuff like that, and did some benefit concerts and some benefit albums as well, raising money. And we had
That's
some
so
really
cool.
cool guest performers on them too. One of them we had Mount Oriander, who's a very cool band. We had Nana Grizzle on one of them with an exclusive track, who's one of my favorite bands of all time. So I don't know, it's been a very cool experience. But obviously Sherry CD-ROM is like what we spend most of our time doing. So we're pretty busy between that and that.
I believe it. Yeah. So you donated one of your songs to be the intro for this little podcast we do, which is great. So
Yes.
thank you for doing that. And thank you for being on the show to talk about stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that song is from Demo Disc. And you also have a new single out recently, Twirl Mermaid, correct?
Yes, Twirl Mermaid is our
Okay.
new single.
I did some homework. I made sure I
You
didn't
did.
come unprepared. Yes. But yeah, we can talk about whatever you want. If you want to start talking about music stuff, you want to talk about more of the wonderful like instrument donation process, or if you want to just talk about your lives and I want to know how you two met. Honestly, I think it's super cute.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. Let's get a little bit,
Yeah.
about you two. Like,
Yeah.
who are you? I mean, from what we know, you're the hottest T4T couple in Pittsburgh. Let's go. But tell us about that. Like, let's go.
So, the story is actually a really weird one. Just because you would expect it to be something like incredibly grand, or like we bumped into each other at like music show or something like that. And honestly, it's really not. We both were going through bad breakups. I lived a little ways away. And we just both so happened to, at that exact window, I took a shot, went on there, saw a post.
Went on where?
Okay, so we were really desperate, and we went on Reddit r/T4T.
I made a post on
Love
Reddit.com, which I've never
finds
done.
a way.
You have to understand. I had been in a very long-term relationship. I had not dated in 8 years. You know what I mean? We had just broken up. I was like, I don't know how to date people. I don't want to go on apps. I'll just maybe go on Reddit. I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't. But yeah, we went on Reddit.com and I made a post, and it was briefly the top post of the year on r/T4T. So adding more fuel to the
Oh, there we
hottest in
go.
Pittsburg fuel or fire. But yeah, that same day, Claire happened to have broken up with her ex, and we messaged each other, and we happened to be both in Pittsburgh, and we went on one date. Instantly fell in love. Moved in together a month later.
Yeah, like that's not even a
Yeah.
joke either.
Not even a joke.
We
Yeah.
didn't intend to either. We didn't really U-Haul it really. It ended up being a situation of both of us were in really bad like problem scenarios where it was like, hey, listen, like rent's expensive and we
Yeah.
both need roommates, and we're like,
We
if it
said,
doesn't
hey.
work out, like we need roommates still, but
Mhm. Yeah, we said, hey, let's just live together for the summer as roommates, and just it'll be fine, and then we'll figure it out after that. And we were completely enamored with each other by
Yeah.
week 2.
yeah.
And that's
I
when
gotta
the
put this
U-Haul
one in chat
trailers
on the
came
screen.
in.
Yeah.
That's when the actual U-Hauls.
Yeah. Yeah. No one is immune to the U-Haul. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my roommate. We share a bed to save on space. We share a room. We just cook together. We live together because it's just more convenient. We save money that way.
We wear matching rings because we're best friends.
Yeah, just
Yeah, we had this
Yeah.
elaborate
They're called
ceremony.
friendship
we don't
rings,
know.
okay?
yeah, gals being pals, just
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question from Fireclef here in the chat saying, how long have you two been together?
Oh, we've been together for
close to
almost 3
now.
years.
Yeah.
Almost 3 years. And yeah, like Sherry CD-ROM wouldn't have existed if we never met, because we're
Such good pals.
such good pals.
Or
And such good like just writing partners too, I didn't expect it. When we first started the band, I'd been doing solo music for years and years and years, and I expected to continue doing solo music with this new project. That's why it's not called Sherry and Claire CD-ROM, because it was supposed to be a solo project, but then quickly we discovered how great we are at working
I was
together.
gonna say,
writing
way to go,
together.
Claire.
Yeah.
Way to ruin it, Claire. I'm kidding.
That's on me. I'm sorry.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Like, I've heard your songs, obviously, and you let me pick one for to be a theme, and they're all incredible. It was really hard to pick one, and I think you two really jive well together. So, I was
hope so.
definitely kidding, Claire. Good job.
I did want to say I found it interesting that you picked.
I was gonna bring this up too.
Yeah, we said pick whatever song you want, any clip from any song, and you picked Mirror Scene, and I thought that was a really interesting choice. I would love to maybe ask you like why that one was the one chosen, and maybe talk a little bit about that song.
Oh man, I'm being interviewed here now.
Let's do it.
Turns
All right,
tables.
Riv,
Just a
you're now
little.
the new interviewed. Claire and Sherry are now the new
Yeah.
co-hosts.
Yes.
River, tell us.
Yeah. So I think when I was looking for a new song for season 2 to kind of represent a different feeling, kind of it feels almost like a little rebirth of the show. At the same time, I was going mostly on vibes, less on lyrics. However, the lyrics did kind of call to me, and I feel like even if they're not necessarily directly calling out dysphoria, I feel like there's definitely something that could have a connection there with some of our
Yeah.
listeners and viewers. And it's just a banging song. It's such a good song, and it's a really great vibe, I think, for the new season. And it was between that one and what was the other song I almost picked from your album? Now I have to go back through my Bandcamp download of your.
Well, I just thought it was interesting because it's very much about like you're right. There is a dysphoria angle of like looking in the mirror and just not recognizing who you see, and
Yeah.
there's something, there's the song is kind of intense and maybe a little bit almost bleak, like it's a little scary, you know,
Yeah.
that feeling. But it's beautiful too, and Claire has a verse in there. It suddenly gets a little pretty in the song, and there's a little glimmer of hope, and I always really enjoy that part.
Yeah, it's funny. On that particular song, I do only a little bit of vocals. Throughout the first album, there's going to be more. But I had a singing part in Love Me Hard. And then Myrcene is actually one of the ones I sang the most on.
Yeah,
I
I'd say
did,
so.
yeah, I did backing track for a good portion of it, and I did the outro there.
It was hard
So
to convince you to sing,
God,
honestly, because Claire will tell you she didn't really do any music before Sherry CD-ROM.
none.
Yeah. So but she has this really strong sense of what makes a song work in the writing and in the mixing and in the arrangement. Just she can always see the big picture when I often get lost in the details. And in the past, that's been my biggest hurdle with making solo music was I would get so lost in the details, and by the end, I'd come up with something that was a little hard to parse, maybe like a little overly complex, a little unfocused. But Claire can really rein it in and focus that, and I'm very constantly impressed by it.
Thank you.
That's
And
so.
and that's what I need is I need someone to kind of rein me in, and she does that tremendously. And she comes up with ideas that I never would have considered consistently.
That is so cool, and
I love
that was
that.
actually going to be one of my questions about so like how long before Sherry CD-ROM have you been like involved in music, like high school or like even before
Mm.
that, like lessons, vocals? Where did it all come from?
Well, I learned piano lessons when I was a little kid because my mother would play piano, and I thought it was very pretty when I was 5 years old. So I wanted to learn piano, which I did. I took classical piano lessons. I mean, I'm classically trained in piano for a very long time and learned all the music theory and everything up until high school and all that. And then started my first band in high school. I was not the front person. I was playing keyboard in the back, and I was playing overly complicated keyboard parts to like very simple rock music, you know. But I learned guitar in high school because I wanted to impress a girl.
As
And
most high schoolers do.
yes, and it worked, I think. I think she was impressed. So, but yeah, and then from there I started playing open mics where I grew up or traveling a little bit because right where I grew up there wasn't a lot of going on, but you travel a little bit, you drive an hour here or there and you can find something. Or there was a college near where I grew up and there were some open mics around there. So most of my experience comes from playing open mics when I was really young and then slowly transitioning into DIY shows and bigger shows, and now we play I think a healthy mix of DIY basement shows and, legit shows. But I love them both, and there's so many pros and cons to each.
Yeah, and I guess the really weird secret of everything is the fact I have no musical experience prior to this.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I
Yeah, I want to
didn't
hear
do
more about this. This is great.
Yeah.
I didn't do band, I didn't do chorus, I didn't do any stage performances, anything. Quite frankly, it's not for lack of wanting to. It's essentially while I was growing up, we just didn't have a ton of money. Couldn't afford instruments really. I mean, we were doing okay, but just never had the means really. So for the most part, it just kind of fell by the wayside. Um, Even then, I was in a very rural area, couldn't really just go to someone's place and mess around with an instrument, play something, and learn. So I never did. Um, what ended up happening was kind of the lead-in for this was I believe you realized, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna run the board, the electronics for everything, and play my instruments.
I
on
think that's how it
stage.
started. Yeah.
And there was just not enough hands to do all the work on stage. And I was like, well, I can give it a shot. And we kind of went from there. Like, this
Mhm.
is my first music project ever and doing music at all. Like,
Yeah. And we were playing very early versions of some of the songs that ended up on demo disc and some others that never got released, I think, back then. But yeah, being on stage with you, we quickly realized like, you know, you're very keen on like what works and what doesn't work and where to move things and how to make these songs work better. And yeah, I was just so surprised and impressed because I think that great musical sensibility, you don't have to understand music theory necessarily, but you do have to have a good sense of the big picture, like I said. But she listens to so much music. She's incredible. Like we we stopped into a restaurant once and they were doing a music trivia night. You know, the thing where they play 10 seconds of a song and say, "Oh, what is it?" And we didn't know they were doing trivia night, but every single one she gets immediately. 1 second, boom, boom.
That
You
is
know,
so cool.
and she's introduced me to this a huge array of music I never would have heard otherwise. And I you really get it, babe. You really get it. And it's really impressive to me.
I'm a prog head, so
Yeah.
In more ways than one, I'm assuming.
yes.
Yes, actually.
That's actually a really cool talent. To be able to just pick up music just like that. I have a little bit of knowing of that because when I was growing up, it was very much, oh hey, look, it's a guitar. Let's pick it up, and then I'd start playing it, and my parents were like, okay, we're going to enroll you in guitar classes, and it's just like, now it's not interesting because now I'm forced to have to enjoy it. It was the same with
Now it's
piano.
less cool.
I
Yeah.
learned how to play piano
I'll do
on
it,
my
not because you
own.
told me to, though.
Well, exactly.
real.
And then it was just like, yeah, no, I totally
Yeah.
get it. But I mean, for me, it was a lot of my music interest just kind of fell to the side because my parents were like, here, you're going
Yeah.
to do this now. It's just like, no. And to my
Yeah.
parents, if they do listen to this podcast, hi, it's not your fault. Love you.
Oh yeah, like, and when I said everything earlier, it's not my parents' fault for like anything going on, why we really didn't get instruments or anything like that. It's just a matter of there was a lot going on at the time. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why kids need to get instruments and get in bands because, you know, just doing lessons and doing it at school is fun, but it's not cool. It's not cool, you know, to do that. What's cool is getting together with your friends and being like, hey, we're doing our own thing. No one can tell us how to do this. We're doing it because we want to do it.
100%.
And that's what
100%.
keeps you motivated and engaged. Like, I don't know if I'd really still be playing piano all that much if not for, you know, being in playing piano in bands when I was in high school. I might have kind of let it fall by the wayside, but rediscovering it then as an adult of like I can play whatever I want and no one can tell me not to.
And that is
It's such a
so
beautiful
cool.
thing. Yeah.
Because like a
Nice.
lot of high school bands don't have that keyboard. It's like you have the
Yeah.
bass, the guitar, and the drums, and the lead singer. Sometimes they're the lead guitar too, and keyboards are Another good question would be like, where do your influences come from? Like, what was picking off of Bree's question here is like favorite artist, favorite song, favorite music genre to listen to or to create. Like, where does that influence come from for either or both? Did you develop it together?
I'll let Claire go on that because you have such a wide sort of variety.
I think
Ooh.
what's really unique is the fact that we kind of broach music from very different standpoints. Sherry is very much the pop, hyper pop, listening to different genres. As a matter of fact, she plays in another band that's alt country.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of influence from that aspect, whereas I'm very much from a metal and prog and just rock aspect of it, and just music sensibilities from that aspect of it. Favorite artist and favorite song is probably one of the toughest questions I've been asked.
Do you just like forget every song you ever heard? Because that's what happens to me when people ask me that
That's
question.
usually what happens to me, but like I think
Let's go top 5 then ish. You know, if you could kind of
I'd
like.
I
probably
think I
bring
know
up
what
a
your
couple.
favorite album is.
my favorite album.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I know.
Which one do you think is my favorite album? I'm interested.
I think it's City of Evil.
No, it's not. No.
Not?
No.
Ooh.
Oh, if someone
Wait,
asked me what
hold
your
on
favorite
though.
album was,
Hold
I
on
would
though.
say City of
I
Evil.
feel like you should answer for each other on this question. This is fun.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Ooh,
could
okay.
totally have this.
City of Evil by who makes that?
It was really old Avenged Sevenfold before
Avenged
they
Sevenfold.
got
Okay.
really weird and cringy.
Before they got weird.
That's the problem. Way back when they were actually pretty
It's
cool,
true.
and then they got really not cool.
Yeah. It does
Like-
tend to happen.
Yeah, like their old stuff is actually like really good stuff.
I would love to know what you think my favorite is.
That is the toughest question because you listen to some weird stuff.
Make something up.
What's that song she always has on repeat?
She doesn't have songs on repeat.
Oh,
That's very much like me. If I can't listen to one song more than once. That's why I
Yeah.
get so frustrated working on music. I'm not the kind of person who listens to a song on repeat all week. I hear it and I'm like, that was fucking great.
I'm done with it.
I'm done with it. I'll go
Yeah.
listen to it tomorrow.
I'd probably say favorite artist is Mountain Goats for you.
I love the Mountain Goats. I truly love the Mountain Goats. Maybe it is
Here
my
I
favorite
am
artist.
googling mountain goats.
Yeah, it's
My
definitely the Mountain
favorite-
Goats.
Album is probably The Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails, baby.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Wasn't expecting that one. Okay. Awesome.
I love really intricate production. Just really thoughtful, really I don't know, just I think thoughtful is a good way to put it. Just you can tell that every sound and every little moment was so thoughtfully considered. And that's just what I value in music, really, more than anything else.
For
And
me,
I think that's a great example.
I think this is a tough one. I'm torn between about 3 right now, just for ones that have had a really big impact lately. I'm a huge fan of Hail the Sun. My favorite album from them is by far Wake. If you haven't heard Wake, it's an incredibly interesting album. It covers it is an entire kind of like, I'd say it's almost a math rock, but not quite math rock. But the entire album covers a small town murder and goes through the entire like plot line, like the trial and everything as it's going through, and like the finger pointing and all of the crazy things that happened in this particular case. It is a wild album that goes from like some really harsh, like just guitar tones and everything like that to a song that ends with just this pure acoustic, just like at the end with like you can hear the slide for the guitar, like very raw, very visceral. I love it.
She loves a good concept album.
That
She
is
does.
actually really cool.
Yeah, and then I also really enjoy Circus Survive. Circus Survive is awesome.
You've turned me
and
on to that. I like
One
that
of
too
my
now.
favorite songs of all time is The Difference Between Medicine and Poison is in the Dose. That song hurts. I like songs that have like a really deep emotional impact. I think that's really what my favorite genre of choice boils down to is I like music that hits. And then I think recently, I'm back into Coheed and Cambria. I'm back in the building again.
Yeah, baby.
They just released that new album. If you haven't heard it,
I
it came out
know.
last Friday. It's phenomenal.
I've heard some singles. It's pretty good.
It is really good. I listened to it front to back the other night. It was fantastic, which is saying something because I thought their previous album was also fantastic. Vaxxus 2 was incredible.
It was
And
incredible.
the
And I
fact
never
that-
would have heard of that if not for you.
the fact that
honestly.
Window to the Waking Mind is not the most listened to song on that album, is the saddest part of that album though, because that song is incredible.
It is really great.
But
Um,
yeah, my music taste is all over the place. So I also listen to classical music at times.
Nice.
Um,
Well, I mean, I feel like classical music and metal are probably the most heavily aligned in terms
Oh,
of
yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that always confuses me a little bit. The fact that there's classical, which is so, I want to say like posh, almost like just very put together and stuff like that. And then there's metal, which has almost that chaotic sound to it. That's
Mhm.
just almost.
Sometimes.
No, I mean average listener. Sorry.
I think that's I think that's really one of the powerful things on metal in general, though, is that there's beauty in the chaos, though. There's still a
Yes,
flow.
yes.
There's still a sensibility to it, and I think that's the difference between metal artists that are incredible and metal artists that are good at what they do. But like, there's something to be said for a metal artist who could sit there and have this chaos, have the overlays, have
Yes.
everything coming together in this beautiful, chaotic, just maelstrom of sound that just goes crazy. Someone in the chat said it, but yeah, symphonic metal, it just goes crazy.
Yeah, that was
You know,
Fire Clef again. Yeah.
speaking on
Yep.
the cacophony, I think I listen to a lot of different kinds of music and everything, but I think the thing that most inspires me, weirdly, is noise. I love harsh
Ah,
noise.
Yeah.
Like going to noise shows is one of my favorite things in the world because it feels like there's no barrier between creative expression and the performer. You know, it's just like pure, like controlling energy almost. There's something really powerful about it. I used to not get it. Like before I transitioned, I think I didn't get it. And now I love noise and I go to a lot of noise shows and I'm just consistently, constantly inspired by it. I did one noise set with a friend once and I had no idea what I was doing and I realized how hard it is to make harsh noise. It's not just something you can do. You have to really know what you're doing. But yeah,
I
I
feel
sort
like
of
I'm
embarrassed
learning
myself at
so
that
much
show.
about music.
and we've seen some like really
Same.
weird sets too. The Pittsburgh noise scene is incredible,
It's
by the way.
incredible. And yeah, because
Um,
I love so much of the performance art aspect of like, hey, you know, I'm on a stage, attention's on me. I have 20 minutes of your life. What am I going to do with that? You know, and I think about that ethos constantly, constantly. Like we've seen some stuff where we had to leave the room.
yeah.
You know,
Oh.
like
Uh,
people really do some intense, incredible stuff, and sometimes it just hits you in the gut, and sometimes, you know, it's almost too much, and
a-
sometimes it's peaceful and beautiful.
yeah. And we've seen some wild ones too, like some really just insanely talented, just weird ways of doing noise sets. We saw one of the noise sets on a venue that ended up closing. One of the final ones was someone was cooking and they used contact mics
Yes.
on the plate for it. And they were doing a noise set with the contact mics while they were cooking chili. And it was the most surreal experience of our lives. It was
It was
awesome
amazing.
though. And then there's other acts we know, like there's a performer in the area who literally enters in algorithms and essentially codes on stage to generate sounds live and does the noise set that way. And that is incredible.
Shout out C Robo if you're
Shout
listening.
out C Robo.
So cool.
Um, but
See, and
genuinely,
I'm learning new things about the like I've never actually heard of that genre before, like noise and it being a scene of in
yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that's incredible.
It's a
I'm
really
just
unique
Now I'm
learning
scene.
gonna have to
so
go check
much.
it
I
out.
didn't even know
Yeah.
noise was a
Yeah.
music genre. Like,
Yeah.
And I think that's what's cool is like the DIY scene here is like, don't get me wrong, you have to, it's very much a little bit insular, but that's because it kind of has to be. There's a massive crossover between the queer community here and the DIY scene here. That Venn diagram is almost a circle.
Yes.
But
Love
that
it.
being said, like it really is just very it's very positive. It's very encouraging. There's a lot of really great artists and there's a lot of really great spaces in Pittsburgh, which is a huge surprise because the thing about it is like you will hear like people who aren't into the music scene here be like, "Oh, the city's kind of boring." And meanwhile, everyone I know who's like at least like tangentially related to the music scene is like Pittsburgh's one of the greatest places to live ever. So it's really crazy how that like ends up just kind of having that flip to it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it has that.
I guess we're
So,
all moving to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
no, I like my Canada, you know. Yeah.
That's
Okay,
real.
well,
I respect it.
okay. Yeah, we understand. We understand. Okay, I think we all understand right now.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, y'all, but
Can I
Sorry,
interrupt
indeed. Yeah.
with a question that before it gets buried from chat? Are
Yeah,
we cool with
sure.
that?
Yeah.
Sweet. Put it on screen here. What was the hardest obstacle you had to overcome in your musical careers and your greatest challenge?
That's a great question.
That's a great question from the Trans Kitchen. Thank you.
I think,
also known as Eve.
Yes, also known as Eve.
well, Eve, I think I touched on it a little, but my greatest challenge is when it's learning to balance out this, this sort of advanced music theory and the raw performance of it and finding a balance there. Because if you lean too hard in this direction, you get songs that are overly complicated, unfocused. You lean too hard in this direction, you get songs that are, maybe emotionally intense but not interesting, you know? And finding that balance for me has been a constant challenge and a constant source of inspiration. And it's still every day like what I'm working towards is a more perfect balance of the two.
I think for me I have to get a little raw on this in order to answer this one effectively.
Do it. Get raw.
For me it's a
Whatever that means for you.
combination. It's a combination of factors for me because admittedly, I have quite a few physical limitations that end up making music very difficult for me. When I was in high school, I took a sucker punch to about here while I was full exhale. And it separated the lining of this lung. I have a partially paralyzed diaphragm. And like half my vocal tract is like partially paralyzed in general. So it made things very hard for me to try and figure out how to do lyrics, music again, and things like that. And then besides that, when I was in college, I ended up getting what is the term for it? It's about the closest thing you can get to this isn't even a joke. I wish it was a joke. The closest thing you can get to actually having flesh-eating bacteria in my hand here. And I almost lost this entire hand, but essentially what happened was my thumb has a fused muscle in it because I just got a horrible illness. These three fingers are numb because they got slammed in a super magnets working construction briefly. Um,
Oh shit.
so like I'm gonna be honest, these three fingers here are kind of numb. This my thumb has a fused muscle, so overall, like yes, it was necrotizing fasciitis.
Great chat.
It was
Good job, Chad.
um it, it was so the thing about it is overall I have physical limitations. It makes it tough for me to try and play a physical instrument. It's not for lack of trying. I am trying again. I'm trying to learn. It's going to take me some time. And even singing, it took me a while to really work through a lot of stuff. Because besides that, I have the classic dysphoria of just my voice in general. But it was also, I went through voice training lessons and voice coaching, and I saw SLPs. I saw 3 different people. I spent so much money, and I have physical limitations that it's a situation that they sat there and said, sorry, I can't help you anymore. So that was pretty discouraging. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of really bad luck with that and spent a lot of money doing it, and it was pretty discouraging for a while. So it took me a while to get back into it and really work up the courage to kind of
Yeah.
sing and do things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
And a little stage
I'm
fright on top of it, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, thanks for being really vulnerable with us and telling us that. That's
Yeah.
I mean, I just met you, but I'm very proud of you because you've
Oh, thank you.
clearly come a long way and you're actively making music successfully. So that's pretty incredible. I
Very
would say.
proud of her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the other fun questions we had a little bit early on was Gigi's in chat posted, "What was this I heard about a recent award at some sort of fancy event? Let's hear about this."
She knows about this. Um, um, there's an organization in Pittsburgh called Allies for Health and Wellbeing. It's an LGBT health organization. They've been around for 40 years. And every year they pick a few young people to be part of this program where they're honored with an award and a ceremony and a gala. And somehow I was nominated and somehow I was picked. And I'm very, very happy about it. It feels wonderful. So they invited us to a cocktail mixer with all these fancy people. And it
Oh,
was,
cool.
I felt very out of place and intimidated, but we had a good time. And it feels great to be recognized, of course.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's so huge, especially given today's climate that they still have these sort
Yeah,
of events and things like that. So that's amazing. That's huge. Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's
Very
cool.
proud of her.
Was
It
it
was
to
really cool.
Sherry specifically or just the band as a whole?
It was to Sherry specifically.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest with you, we do stuff together, but overall, Sherry is really the face of the band. I mean, I don't show up in a lot of videos just because I'm shy.
Thanks for being on video
Oh, thank
on
you.
the stream. Yeah.
And I just had some health issues for a while, so I wasn't. We had like 2 other podcasts, and I ended up being sick for both of those. So it worked out this time, though. Hey.
Hey.
We love to see it.
Okay. Well, just to clarify, pun intended. Okay. Which instruments do each of you play? Because I know, okay, both of you are singing now,
Yeah.
Yes, we're
and
both singing.
I'm sure that there are a ton of instruments that each of you can play. But I'm very curious as to who is on what when I'm listening.
So keys and guitar are me. But electronics and stuff we kind of do together. So like Claire said, she has some physical limitations where she can't necessarily play a lot of these instruments, but she can direct me to tell me what to play essentially, which is quite what happens a lot. A lot of songs come from me messing around on something, and she goes, "It sounds like this," and I'm like, "Oh, it sounds okay. I can translate this." You know what I mean? Which is such a rewarding experience. We just wrote a song like that recently, where I was ooh, what's the sitch? um,
That's twice now on stream, at least. Samera, put that on your checklist to mute your phone next if you don't want to get called out for your Kim Possible noise.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
It's okay. You got this. You got this.
But what was I saying? Yes, we were.
It's Kim Possible to remember.
It is impossible to remember where I was at. Very frequently I'll just mess around and play piano improv for her, just because it makes her happy and because it makes me happy to share that with her. And I just happened to be playing something and she went, "Ooh, there's something there," and we spent a half hour kind of hammering it back and forth, and turned into a new song that is a totally different style than we would have ever done, you know. So I love working together. I do. It's a magical experience.
Kitty.
But yeah, guitar is me. I'm playing guitar, keys, and bass basically. But she's, not physically playing anything except for singing.
Yeah, I pretty much run electronics and I'm singing. However, that being said, you also play like every other instrument under the sun.
I do play a lot of others.
You
In
can play
previous solo music,
accordion.
I played a lot of brass
Which is awesome.
instruments and woodwinds and strings and accordion and all kinds of fun things.
It's
But
just a couple.
just a couple, and
Just a
bass
couple.
and drums and everything, you know. But nowadays, I just really fell in love with synths and samples, and I do a lot more electronic stuff. It just feels more open-ended, really, to do
Mhm.
synths versus instruments. Um, I'm reminded of like there's a Sophie quote where it's like, in the world of electronics, you can do. I'm paraphrasing, but it's like you can make any sound and make it do anything. Like, why would anyone restrict themselves to just doing what's possible in the real world? And I'm so inspired by that. Like I think about that all the time. You know, if I could make any sound in the world, why would I want to just play trumpet? And trumpet's great. It's a beautiful instrument. But for me, for what I'm wanting to do, I usually want to do something impossible, you know?
And it's nice too because like there's only two of us. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
we can only play so many instruments. I mean, Sherry does have a particular talent in one of her songs to be able to play piano and guitar at the same time, which by the way is hilariously impressive. But
The crowd
Wait,
always goes wild.
you literally
yes.
play.
Yes.
Okay.
The
Wow.
crowd loves
Wow.
it. You'll have to come to a show and see it.
Oh, you're not gonna do it for us right now? Okay, fine.
Oh,
Do I have
come
to
on, we
beg?
could totally have a live concert.
Hey, next
Hey,
time I'll set up for it. But there was a recent show. The crowd especially loved it at a recent show where Claire was sick. She couldn't come. I was doing it by myself, which I really can't do by myself because I'm navigating between all these
On me.
electronics and everything. But I did my best. I mostly just played, guitar and singing. But on that song, I said, Claire's not here, so I'm gonna have to find a way to play guitar and piano at the same time. How am I gonna do that? And then I do it. Crowd was going, "Whoa!"
so you don't tell us
you
how.
know,
You just said, and then I do it.
and then I do it.
How did you do it?
I
Are you just like doing like hammer-ons or like on the
I'm
guitar
doing
and you're
hammer-on
playing with the same?
chords.
Okay.
Where
Okay.
I turn the guitar way up and the noise gain, way up, and then I'm doing
Okay, that makes
hammer-on
sense.
chords and pull-offs while doing a solo.
Is it like all bridge pickup? I'm assuming to get that heat on there, or not so much.
Middle pickup.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
talking both.
Interesting.
Always both for me. I never move it
Always
from the
both.
middle, which is, I don't know why. I have
Well,
superstitions,
you get tone and you get the crunchiness too. So
Yeah, I have certain superstitions. Like I never move the pickup. It's always right in the middle.
Who moved
Oh,
It's
this
silly,
pickup?
but one of my
Yeah.
many superstitions.
So, quick question before we jump into break here in a little bit. Just FYI, chat. In a little bit, we're going to go for a break, and then we'll be back for the second part of this live show. But Sherry, I guess a little bit more to you because I'm a little curious if because you did play like a lot of band through high school and a little bit as you were growing up, but did you find like your music taste and how you produced music and everything else, if that changed with your transition?
Oh my goodness, absolutely, absolutely, it did. Um, and because once I started transitioning, I became slowly a part of this queer community because I never was before. And then, um, through that queer community, I met so many more just interesting musicians and artists because, like Claire was saying, there's this huge overlap between DIY music and the queer community. And I felt like this whole huge section of art was just missing from my life. And I started integrating into it. And I just discovered so much and became inspired and worked with all these different people and learned from them. Um, yeah, yeah. It's definitely changed because of that kind of exposure and just working with lots of different people.
That is so cool.
I got a lot of questions here
Oh, I see some questions in the chat.
from Bree Moonfire. Should we go through a couple of them before we hit our break here?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. For both of you, what advice would you give to aspiring musicians?
My advice, and I think Claire probably has some advice too, but my advice
I do.
is touched on a little bit of what I was saying before. Collaborate as much as possible. If there's anyone around you making music, go jam with them. You're gonna learn a lot from them, just from that. You know, do a feature on their song. Get them to teach you a cool chord that they found. You know, just don't isolate yourself. You'll make so much better art if you're in a community. So find that community. That's my advice.
That is
I
so cool.
and I think my advice kind of goes with that a little bit. Don't necessarily think that you can't participate in music just for any multitude of reasons. There's a million entry points to get involved with music and do music. You can sing, you can do contact microphones with a hot plate. Like, there's so many ways to get involved with music in very non-traditional ways these days. And I think one of the biggest things is don't necessarily get locked into this idea of I have to learn guitar, I have to learn piano, I have to learn drums. You know, like there's a ton of really traditional things that are very powerful and very moving and are great. There's also a lot of really great non-traditional ways of getting involved in music too. And don't necessarily think you can't get involved in music due to one reason or another. Give it a shot. Put pen to paper. Get some notes, play a little something, make little chip tunes on your computer. You know, there's things you can do. It's definitely worth trying and seeing if it's something you enjoy.
Hell yeah.
Hell
Love
yeah.
that. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Sherry, now it's your turn.
Do I
Say,
have
to
more
say
advice?
hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
No, I meant to say, because everyone else said it.
We're going around the room.
I was
We're
like,
going
We
around.
were going around, the squares here.
This is part of the chaos. Welcome to it. This is what we
I
do.
would not call that chaos.
Oh, it.
Oh, it was entirely planned. Don't worry. Sherry and I talked about it beforehand. It's fine. Next question to avoid this chaos. What is your process for dealing with performance anxiety? If you have a process. If you don't, that's fine too.
I have a lot of performance anxiety still. And I've been playing shows for like 10 plus years. And I've played, hundreds of shows probably. But still, even a venue I've played 30 times in the past, I'm still, the few minutes before, Claire knows, I'm like, okay, I can do this. I could do this. Every time. But I really truly think good practice, good preparation is going to help so much. Knowing that you practice, knowing that the second that the lights go down and you start playing, you know exactly what you're doing. It goes away. It vanishes, The second that you strum that first chord, it's just like, for me, it just vanishes. And I think I think it comes from good practice.
I don't really have a way. I will also say though, what I'm in the same boat. I'm still anxious, but it's also because I'm still really new to music in general. But that being said, don't worry a ton about putting out absolute grade A perfection every time. Part of the beauty of music is being able to. There's mistakes. That's part of how music is made, and mistakes will happen, especially like starting off DIY, everything like that. Sometimes you'll start a song and it's in the wrong tuning, and you're like, oh crap. We went to a
Happens
show
all the time.
recently, and one of the other artists ended up starting the song, realized that it wasn't in the right tuning, and she stopped and said, "Hold on," and they started over, and it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
the music scene is very. It's not as like we're gonna hit you with hammers for not doing it perfect as people like to
Yeah. You always
Tout it,
think it'll
and
be a disaster
yeah,
if you mess up, but it
Yeah.
won't.
it's a really awesome, chill scene. And don't get me wrong, like, obviously try to put out the best performance you can, but mistakes happen. You miss a note, you hit the wrong one every now and then, and you know, little mess ups happen. I mean, there have been times where I've heard it. We've been playing a song, Sherry loses her place in the lyrics, and we improv it for a second, get back on track at the next section. Like,
Hmm.
happens.
Happens all
That
the time.
almost makes me think of like the funny version of like people ask in Avengers, like, Hulk, what's your secret? I'm always angry. It's like, what's your secret for performing? I'm always anxious.
I'm always terrified.
Always. Yeah.
What's your secret to anxiety? Oh, just I'm totally always anxious.
Tremble
Yeah.
uncontrollably the entire time. That's
Yeah,
my
and
that's
you
my
just-
secret.
and you just do it anyway, right?
Exactly. I mean,
Crap.
yeah. Even playing it over to here, like, with
Yeah.
live streaming, I do both
that
the
vibrato.
podcast and my own. Like, no matter what, before we hit that live button, I'm anxious. Like, and as we go
Yeah.
through this live stream, I'm always anxious. And because I know I'm going to do something stupid, I know it's going to be on the internet. I've done so many stupid things, and they're clipped and they're on the internet. Guess what? Yay!
I can't wait to see if there's any clips of dumb things I've done or anything like that. I'm actually very
Right.
excited for that aspect. I will save it and
Yeah.
cherish it forever.
I mean, a
100%.
shameless plug for our Discord. If you're on the Discord, there is a stream clip channel. Samera and I have
Ooh.
both been clipped, and maybe you will be as well.
I'm
Well-
gonna need the invite to that Discord then at some point.
Well,
Yeah.
let me just put that
Oh.
in the chat here. Everybody
Oh.
should.
Ah.
Let's
Everyone
do
should do
all
it.
the
We've got a
lovely
public Discord.
links here as we get ready to go for our little wonderful break. Let's
The
see,
second half
there's
gets
that
really quiet
one.
because they're just hanging out in Discord.
Real.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay. There's
Yeah, you
that
can
one,
join
that
the Discord
one,
and interact with us too. We'll be there.
There you go.
100%. Please join our Discord. Like, we would love to if people have other questions, because of course, unfortunately, we only get so many viewers here to come and see these live streams, and the rest is going to be on the podcast as we go forward. So, if you do join the Discord, if you do start to see a lot of spam, we'll try and tone it down. But I mean,
I think it's awesome.
yeah, questions will be there. People like to engage there, and I mean, it's a wonderful community. Riv created it, I helped curate it, and we love it there. So please come check it out. During the break, we do have the plan of sharing some of the songs from Sherry CD-ROM.
I'll play a couple.
And the merch, by the way, Evie, I just posted the link for that, so you can. Oh, that's our merch, but Sherry CD-ROM,
Yeah, that's
do
our
you
merch.
have merch?
I'll tell you what. We, I think, are sold out of these right now, which is our album,
Oh.
If It'll Focus.
There you
on
go.
Yeah.
Game Boy cartridge.
I want to ask
Out
more
of
about
these,
that after the break.
Yeah,
especially, 'cause
we
that's
put our
so-
we'll
album
talk
on
about
Game
that
Boy
for sure.
Advance cartridge as well.
Well,
we
our
have it
version
on.
is sold out.
That.
It's a very special kind of nerd and very special kind of trans-specific nerd.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
nerdery that I
That's the
I
idea.
really appreciate.
Oh, we're going to
Um,
go into the nerddom, because I see some stuffies there that I 100% am I going.
Oh,
I'm
Yeah.
going to
no,
go
that-
crazy for.
Oh,
I've got
yeah.
like 5 on my. I got
During the
they're
break, I'm
everywhere.
pulling out all of mine. Just FYI.
That's fair. I love that. That's
Um,
gonna be awesome.
We might have a couple of these on our Bandcamp, which are cassette tapes of the album. I think we have a few of these left in our merch box, and
Those we can order more of. But
we're out of shirts right now too. We're gonna have a restock of shirts in the next week or two, so keep an eye out for that if you want to share a CD-ROM shirt.
but also we are working on new shirts
Yes, there'll
with
be a
new
design.
designs.
During the break, I will get the link from Sherry and Claire for their merch site, and I will post it in this chat as well. So we'll get that to everybody as well here shortly. But there's the trans spotting merch for, us, we're yay.
We have
Very
two
hard.
designs. You're welcome. Pick both.
Well, we might get
All
more
right.
now that we have Eve who likes to design. So
That's
we'll
very
do-
true. She does like to design stuff. Might ask her to do some cool things.
Like
cool.
a
Well,
rib
why don't we
box
kick it off?
sticker.
Yeah, a little sticker, one of those. I often go on soapboxes, and it's a thing. So Eve made a little cute emoji, emote reaction.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a sticker someday. I don't know. I gotta talk to her about it. What am I doing this on stream for? Let's take a break, everyone.
Let's start over. Wash every lie we've ever told away. Conflicting which parts are true. Well, every story's true in some parts. Even the lies? Yeah, let's try. Let's just dump it. We'll leave our younger selves dead on the street. I'm dead. I died already. There's so much here, there's things to do. I wanna click on all that stuff. I fall in love at just a single touch. Why don't you throw yourself in? Let's watch it all blow up. Let's get to the center. The center of it all. Let's get to the center. Who we really are. Yeah. I'll hold you tighter. I'll kiss you more. I'll make more funny faces in the mirror. I'll dress up however I want. I'm not afraid of anything, not even getting shot. Pick me up, get real rowdy. I will listen when you tell me to shut up. I cry often, I cry so loud. I cry when you look at me, and when I see myself. I should have killed myself last summer. There's always next time. It's a gift with my name on it. Alright, just a peek. Let's take a look at what's inside. Let's get to the center. The center of it all. Let's get to the center of who we really are. Let's get to the center. The center of it all. Let's get to the center. destined to be standing, facing the camera when you meet your maker. And all those German angles, all crooked, fucked and raw. Black feathers, bells, and church choirs. The symmetry just seeping, bursting, seeming, blowing through the windows. It's a warm wind and dark clothing, signaling and hell is not a moment. It's a sound that someone makes when they're afraid. Sound of stillness, sound of breathing in a closed off space. All my fucking hubris. How I thought that I could somehow